Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. How are we all doing? Was that trip into the office today as bad as you were expecting? Or was it just sharing holiday stories and a case of just easing yourself back into your daily grind very gently? Don't leave me in a quiet room talking into a microphone on my own like some crazy old man. Remember, email me techblogwriter@outlook.com or tweet me at Neil C. Hughes anytime, because you guys are the closest thing I have to work colleagues now. Remember, a podcast host is for life, not just for Christmas. Seriously though, I'd like to introduce you today to a serial entrepreneur that's changing the way we think about leadership. Kenny Hawk is a Detroit native who grew up with roots in the automotive industry. And he started his career on the manufacturing floor at General Motors. But he soon found himself leaving Detroit for new opportunities overseas and in Silicon Valley. Now, Kenny is the CEO of Campbell-based Mojio, a leading software as a service platform for connected cars and carrier-branded IoT services. In a nutshell, Mojio is also Kenny's sixth outing as CEO, including his passion for using technology but to solve real-world problems. And on doing a little research, I've also discovered that Kenny was a semi-pro skateboarder as a teenager, and he may or may not still be able to do a handstand while riding. And yes, I promise you, I will go there too. I mean, when researching guests, stuff like that is pure gold to me. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to California so we can speak with Kenny Hawk from Mojio. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Kenny. How are the New Year's resolutions going? Are you still holding firm after the holidays? And are there any plans to resurrect your semi-pro skating career and maybe prove you can still do a handstand while riding?
Well, thanks for asking. We live a very focused life, so we're going to stick to our plans. There's no new resolutions for 2019 other than make sure we stay focused. And for skateboarding, I'm past the point of being a pro skateboarder, but I still try to do a handstand on the skateboard at least once a year to make sure I can still do it. And I'll probably do that at CES with my team. So looking forward to a great CES this year.
Fantastic. That's going to be a sight to see. But when I was researching you, I learned that you are a Detroit native who grew up with roots in the automotive industry. And I believe you started your career working on the manufacturing floor at General Motors, but soon found yourself leaving Detroit for new opportunities overseas and in Silicon Valley. So can you expand a little on that and tell me more about the transition from the manufacturing floor for new opportunities overseas and in Silicon Valley?
Sure. So I worked at General Motors between junior and senior year of college to make some money for college. University in the U.S. is quite expensive. And I was supposed to be programming robots at General Motors. Well, it turned out the robots were delayed from Japan. And so the plant manager, Al Harris, came out to us 28 college students who were supposed to be doing programming and said, "Men, I've got good news and bad news. Bad news, the robots won't be here for another 9 months. Good news is you could work on the manufacturing floor as a production supervisor and learn what manufacturing is all about." And we were like deer in the headlights. I really needed the job, so I stayed. About half the people left and took their backup jobs. And I had to manage, cranky 20 to 30-year veterans of the United Auto Workers Union. And I was there as a 19-year-old with, knowing very little about management. And I tell you, they just ripped me apart for the first few weeks until I finally earned their respect and built a relationship with them. But it was probably one of the toughest things I ever did was managing, people older than me, different races, different backgrounds. And it really took a lot of humble pie to be able to do that job. But I still love technology. And for me, getting out to Silicon Valley was the goal, at least getting out to the West Coast. And I took a job with a startup chip company as a chip designer and moved out to Southern California. And that's how I started my technology career.
You really have been on an incredible journey, and you are currently the CEO of Campbell-based company called Mojio, which is a leading SaaS platform for connected cars and carrier-branded IoT services. But Mojio is also your sixth outing as CEO. But I've got to ask, where did your passion for using technology to solve real-world problems, where did that come from?
It's interesting. I was looking back and trying to figure out, where were the roots? My dad was an electrician, so he always had switches and light bulbs and circuits. We built Radio Shack electronics kits together. He actually built a TV from a Heathkit project kit where you actually take all the components and build your own TV. And so tinkering with electronics at an early age really helped with that. And I look back, and now that Radio Shack is defunct and all the stores are shut down, I'm hoping somebody resurrects those kits, because as a young kid playing with those kits, really taught you the basics of how electricity flows, how switches work, relays, transistors, building your first transistor radio component by component. Those are things that, kids now just take for granted. Everything just works. You don't need to know how it works. And I think understanding how things work is a key part of, building that love and curiosity around technology.
Now, for people hearing about Mojio for the very first time, can you just set the scene a little and reveal exactly what it is, the kind of real-world problems that you solve, and also what makes it stand out from other solutions out there?
Sure. So Mojio, we're a Vancouver-based company with offices in Silicon Valley and also Sofia, Bulgaria. So we're quite global. We build a cloud platform for IoT, starting with the connected car. And what that means is we, for just $10 or €10 per month, the mobile operator provides a device that the consumer plugs into the vehicle, into their onboard diagnostic port, which every car since 1997 has. And by plugging that device in, you light up 4G LTE Wi-Fi in the car. So you have high-speed Wi-Fi in the car that works anytime the car is on. You also decode all the secret information hiding behind that onboard diagnostics port. For example, trouble codes when your check engine light goes on and you have no idea what the problem is, will tell you not only the severity of the problem, but what the problem is and the likely cost of repair. So when you go into a mechanic shop, you as a consumer have much more power than just driving in and saying, please help, I have no idea what's wrong with my vehicle. Now you could drive in and say, this catalytic converter is failing. It should cost about 600 pounds. Can you do it for 600 pounds or less? So just those two features not only give the customer more convenience, but also save them time, save them money. And it also lets you know if your car has been tampered with, has been bumped, towed, or is being stolen. And you know that your loved ones are also getting into a safe vehicle. For me, I've got teen daughters, so knowing that they're driving safely, knowing where they are, and that the cars are safe is also great peace of mind for me as a parent. And with that, we've gone from 0 to 800,000 connected cars in the last 18 months.
And what put you guys on my radar was I think you closed 2018 on an incredibly high note with news that T-Mobile Poland has launched a smart car powered by Mojio, which takes you to 9 operators in 6 countries already. But can you expand on this and how your incredible journey, which seems to be gathering speed now, doesn't it?
Yes, Neil, thank you. It really is accelerating. Deutsche Telekom, which is a majority owner of T-Mobile and also T-Mobile Poland, T-Mobile Germany, Austria, Czech Republic, 13 other countries around the world. They invested in the A round, and they also invested in our most recent B round, and they've been very active as a strategic investor. And many times strategic investors, talk about delivering more than money, but very rarely do they actually follow through on that. Deutsche Telekom has been amazing. They have a partnering group with a couple of key people, Ota, Cesare, Gabby, that actively work as hard trying to help the startup that the big corporate has invested in, as they do, making sure the corporate gets their initiatives completed. So that group has been really helpful in helping us define the product, test the product, make sure it's carrier grade, also making sure we're fully compliant with GDPR, the new regulations in Europe, and then helping us work through each of the different countries, which still are allowed to make their own individual decisions. So that investment from Deutsche Telekom and the partnering group and working closely with them have been really instrumental. And we are super happy to have our most recent launch in Poland. And, it's a large market. Deutsche Telekom has number one market share there, and they're really excited about being able to use this technology to make their car safer, put Wi-Fi in it, and help their consumers save time, save money. And going forward, we expect to eventually be in most of the Deutsche Telekom countries around the world, as long as they have enough cars and enough people.
Now, many people listening to us today will be gently easing themselves back into the office after the new year. But for anyone in the tech industry, of course, they're thrown straight into the chaos and madness of CES in Vegas. And as you're going this year, what excites you about attending CES? And also, what is the secret, you think, to ensuring that the tech that you're showcasing at CES is a success and you get your voice heard? Because it's just vast, isn't it?
Well, it's a great question. And this show has a particular special spot in my heart. I met my fiance on the way to CES 2 years ago on January 5th. So this Saturday will be our 2-year anniversary of meeting. And we were both on the way to CES. She was helping her brother-in-law's company, and I was going to meet with T-Mobile. And our flight had been delayed, and eventually canceled. And we looked at each other and said, I really need to get there. And she said, I really need to get there too. And she then said, well, you seem quite capable. Let's figure out a way to get there together. And one thing led to another. We finally made it to CES. And I've never been apart since. So I met my fiance literally 2 years ago on Saturday, and could not be happier. She's an amazing partner, and we had an incredible adventure thus far, and looking forward to the future. In terms of making the actual show successful and the technology successful, this year we'll be co-hosting a suite at the Venetian next to the Sands Convention Center, together with our other strategic investor, Bosch. And if you look back a year ago, we were searching for an automotive big brother. The automotive industry is so, insulated, difficult to penetrate, very slow decision making, and very much a not invented here mentality of companies trying to do everything themselves. So we felt having a strategic investor and big brother would be really helpful. And we talked to most of the OEM suppliers in the world, and our hope was we'd get the number one supplier, which is Bosch. They're twice as big as the next biggest supplier. They have amazing technology. They invented the CAN bus, which is what our technology talks over through the OBD port. And I'm happy to say not only is Bosch an investor today, but we've got 5 different technology tracks that we're working with them on, including having our platform work directly with an embedded telematics solution in brand new cars. So we'll be demonstrating that at the North American International Auto Show later this month, and we'll be showing and detailing those 5 different work tracks together with Bosch at CES. So, the key is have something that's new, that's innovative, and that you could actually demo. And we'll be doing that side by side with Bosch, which is pretty incredible when you think about it. It's a company with 435,000 employees, 100 billion plus in revenue, and they're sitting there side by side with Mojio, our 90-person growth company. So super excited about that, and what a difference a year makes.
Now, of course, you're going to be probably caught in back-to-back meetings at CES promoting Mojio. Plus, you've got to ride a romantic gondola ride, of course, to celebrate your anniversary. And you've got skateboarding tricks to perform. But if you do get any downtime during CES, which is probably doubtful, is there anything that you're excited about checking out while you're there?
I am. Las Vegas has an incredible new hockey team, the Las Vegas Knights. And they're playing our hometown team, the San Jose Sharks, on Thursday night. So we're going to have a fun night out at the hockey rink with TELUS, our strategic investor from Canada, Bosch, and our team. So really looking forward to the Sharks beating the Knights Thursday night.
Man, it seems like the planets are aligned for you there, doesn't it?
We got lucky. Never underestimate the power of luck.
Now, back at home, I believe you also do guest lectures at Stanford's Engineering Entrepreneurship program. Can you also tell me a little bit more about that program and why you think it's so important?
Absolutely. Well, looking back to the first company I started, I wrote my business plan in that class. And the class is a combination of engineering master's students and business school master students. And the end product of that class is a business plan that you present to both the professor, Mike Lyons, and also the students, and eventually to venture capitalists. Well, I wrote my first business plan in that class and actually started my first company, IGO, which I eventually took public in '99. And so that class has a real special place in my heart. It helped me launch my first business. And so Mike Lyons invites me back, and I come back and disguise myself as another student. And they do the case study on my business plan, and the students just rip apart all the silly things that I was thinking and how the strategy was off, and all these different things that were blemishes or problems with the business plan. And then eventually Mike asked me to come down, so I take off my baseball cap, come down to the front of the class, and tell everyone what actually happened. So it's a real fun kind of live case study around a business that actually worked despite all the problems. And so that's a lot of fun. And for me, I got my first big break from a Stanford alumni, John Makel, who was my very first investor. He'd come up with the original idea for the business. And he's been a huge proponent of entrepreneurs. He was the first investor in Staples and Kinko's copies, and was really the guy that stood by me during the tough times after starting the business. Said, "Listen, I believe in you. I believe in the business. Stick through this. You're going to make it. Instead of worrying about each of the issues, just send me a fax." This is back when people did a lot of faxing. Send me a fax every Friday, and the one good thing that happened, and you'll see after time, you're making progress. And it turns out, obviously, he was right. And so, I'm forever thankful not only to Stanford but also to John Makel for giving me the confidence to stick with it and not let the first, second, third, or 15th problem, knock you down. Every startups have problems, but every problem you solve, you're getting one more step closer to the solution. So that's a key part. The other is just being back on campus really energizes you. Being around all the students, the energy, taking you back to a time when you remembered that anything is possible. There's nothing like that feeling of being on campus. So I get a lot out of it as well.
Now, you have enjoyed a fantastic career and experienced the dramatic highs and lows of entrepreneurship since working your way up from that shop floor. But can you share the funniest or most interesting story that's happened to you since you began leading your own company?
Absolutely. Well, I started at the chip company called Silicon Systems right out of college. And, after a couple of years working in different parts of the engineering team, I was invited to a CEO dinner. And the CEO of the company, Carm, I didn't know this, but he would invite 6, 7 people out to dinner once a month, try to get them a little liquored up and having a few glasses of wine. And then he would say, "All right, Kenny, what's the one thing you would change in this company? Just one. Don't give me 10. What's the number one thing you would change in this company right now? What is it?" And I said, well, first customer meeting last week, and I noticed that our sales guys were kind of confused about some of the products. They were missing opportunities. The customers were really frustrated trying to figure out which of the products to use and how to apply them. I think we need a 2-day technical training class for our salespeople. And Carm says, "You know what? You're right. I've had a lot of complaints about that. Hawk, you seem like you've got a good personality. So starting Monday, you're going to be transferred up to Silicon Valley, and you're now going to be in technical sales." I'm like, "Wait, well, what? That's not what I suggested." He says, "No, that's exactly what you suggested, and it's perfect. And start packing your stuff tomorrow. You can move over the weekend and report up to the general manager, John Tamel, up there on Monday." And that was it. I was pushed from a technical career, which I was really enjoying, into sales. And I thought of sales as used car salespeople. I never understood or appreciated the importance or the art of professional sales. And I went into his office and said, I'm not a salesman. I'm an engineer. I want to design products, build products. He says, number one, this is not a democracy. Decision's been made. Number two, he says, nobody in this company gets paid until somebody sells something. And number three, I heard you want to be an entrepreneur someday. Well, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you sure as hell better learn how to sell. Now get out of my office. And, my sales manager, John Tamel, was a true pro, taught me all the ropes of selling and the importance of a professional sales career. And we just crushed it. Became number one worldwide, eventually got bought by TDK and later TI. And that experience combined with the other lessons I learned at Silicon Systems stayed with me my whole career. And I look back, because I had a chance to go back to General Motors and IBM, which I'd also worked at. And, if I'd taken that easy path, which actually paid more money than what Silicon Systems offered, would have never learned as quickly as I did at a growth company. And I also think it would have delayed and maybe even prevented me from ever starting a business. So taking that path less traveled and the more difficult path, I really recommend, especially when you're beginning your career.
So if anyone listening wants to meet you or your team at CES, can you just remind them where you'll be? I don't know if you've got a booth number yet, or also where they will find you online, and just contact a member of your team if they've got any questions.
Sure. So our website is moj.io. That's moj.io. There's no .com, just moj.io. We'll be hosting a suite at the Venetian right next to the Sands Convention Center together with Bosch. And to book an appointment, you can go to Calendly, CALENDLY.com/Mojo/CES-2019. We really appreciate the time this morning, Neil. Thank you.
So much of what you've said today has really resonated with me. I love how you're using technology, but to actually solve real problems. But what you said a few moments ago about not taking the easy path, taking that road less travelled, and it's the learning and the grind. That's what shapes you and prepares you for the future. So, such wise words and something that really resonated with me. But more than anything, I wish you the best for CES. I'd love to hear from you later on in the year, see how things are going. But a big thank you for coming on and sharing your time with me today. Thank you.
My pleasure. Cheers.
What a great story. Kenny really is the real deal and a great guy to boot. And like I said at the beginning of the show, we must remember this is Kenny's 6th outing as CEO, indulging in his passion for using technology, but to solve real world problems. And that really comes across. And unsurprisingly, his achievements include winning the GSMA Innovator of the Year award, setting the world record for low-power smartphone GPS chipsets, and selling over 1 billion in mobile power accessories. All that is nearly as impressive as doing a one-handed handstand while riding a skateboard. But what really excites me is Mojio are positioning themselves as the technological backbone for that rapidly growing connected car industry. And let's remember, that space alone is forecast to reach hundreds of millions of vehicles around the world by 2020. And a few years ago, of course, 2020 seemed like it was miles away. But we're in 2019 now, that's literally next year. And Mojio isn't just connecting cars to the internet. They're actually enabling a new automotive ecosystem and bringing together players of all shapes, of all sizes and forms. So I'm going to be following this story very, very closely, and I wish the team at Mojio all the best on their mission of connecting all these pieces together. And it's clear to me, at least from having just spoken to him briefly here, that that's what drives him and that's what drives the company forward. But again, you've heard me talking, you've heard Kenny talking today. But what were your takeaways from today's conversation? Did it leave you with any food for thought? Or just something that you would like to share with me or the listeners, or both? Email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, tweet me at Neil C. Hughes, or pop by my website, techblogwriter.co.uk. But we've reached the end of another episode. 2019's racing by, isn't it? But I'm hungry for more, so I'll join you again tomorrow, same time, same place. We'll do it all again. But more than anything, just a big thank you for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.